Josephine Hall, reading for Mrs. Bennet. My dear Mr. Bennet, have you heard that Netherfield Park is rented at last?
Mr. Bennet replied that he had not.
But it is! For Mrs. Long has just been here and she told me all about it.
Mr. Bennet made no answer.
Do not you want to know who has taken it?
You want to tell me, and I have no objection in hearing it. That was invitation enough.
Why, my dear, you must know. Mrs. Long says that Netherfield is taken by a young man of a large fortune from the north of England. That he came down on Monday in a chaise and four to see the place.
A chaise was an enclosed carriage that seated 3 people. 4 means the carriage was pulled by 4 horses.
And that he was so much delighted with it that he is to take possession of it by the end of next week.
What is his name?
His name is Bingley.
Is he married or single? Is he married or single? Is he married or single?
Oh, single, my dear, to be sure. A single man of large fortune. 4,000 or 5,000 a year.
The equivalent today of about 250 to 300,000 a year.
What a fine thing for our girls.
Now, so how can it affect them?
My dear Mr. Bennet, how can you be so tiresome? You must know that I'm thinking of his marrying one of them.
Is that his design in settling here?
Design? Nonsense! How can you talk so? But it is very likely that he may fall in love with one of them. Therefore you must visit with him as soon as he comes.
That is far more than I engage for, I assure you.
But consider your daughters. You must go, for it will be impossible for us to visit if you do not.
I will send you with some words from me to assure him of my hearty consent at his marrying whichever he chooses of the girls, though I must throw in a good word for my little Lizzie.
I'm sure she is not half so handsome as Jane, but you are always giving her preference. Oh, you take delight in vexing me. You have no compassion on my poor nerves.
You mistake, my dear. I have a high respect for your nerves. They are my old friends. I have heard you mention them with consideration these 20 years at least.
The experience of 20 years was insufficient for his wife to understand Mr. Bennet's character. The business of her life was to get her daughters married.
In reality, Mr. Bennet had always intended to visit Mr. Bingley, though he, to the last, always assured his wife that he would not go.
Upon learning that her husband had visited Mr. Bingley after all, Mrs. Bennet was highly appreciative, if somewhat surprised. What an excellent father you have, girls! I do not know how you will ever make him amends for his kindness. At our time of life, it is not so pleasant, I can assure you, to make new acquaintance every day. But for your sakes, we would do anything.